Yeah. Well, yeah, with this with this live stream name, and I did a little homework, guys. I did a little digging, and it's quite a story. Quite a story. Especially once you dig beyond their story, which we'll get into. It's going to take a little while. We might have, I don't know, we'll see. We'll probably have at least a 2-hour live stream just to explain the wackiness of this OpenAI hack. By the way, I don't even think I fully understand the story yet, but just scratching the surface of it is ridiculously wacky. I mean, you'll see. We're we're gonna go down some serious rabbit holes on this. Trust me. This is gonna be the stream that we're all gonna reflect back on and think, what the heck did we actually discuss? Yeah. So now's the time to grab your caffeine, your whiskey, your vape. Sleepy saying, I think the fix using the Chinese model is an entire topic in itself. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, boy, oh, boy. I don't know if you guys have been checking the clips that I've been doing the last couple of days, but like I finally have time to actually bring the production quality to where I normally bring it for the suite, for like talks I give and things like that. I've just been so busy. I've have to kind of, let's be honest, kind of half-ass it. Just produce the content as fast as possible, but not really put much polish into all the things that are kind of going on in my head. But now I have a little bit more time now that I'm handling some of these other major issues, and I can really add a lot more substance to kind of explain. But anyway, in some of those most recent clips, I start to tease out, I think, some of the deeper stories of what's going on, the pricing hikes, the establishment of the open weight models, the proliferation of the technology, the interestingness of model distillation and what that actually means domestically, internationally, how it's really fascinating in my mind how super wealthy startups and big tech are 1000% again in support of the in support of the idea that they can have fair access to all the content in the world, but then the moment someone tries to turn around and use their service as sort of fair access, they want that to be completely shut down. And I think that's total and complete nonsense, right? It's okay for you guys to do it, but then it's blasphemy if anybody else tries to do it. Like that feels like you want to have your cake and eat it too. But I think it's even more ironic that companies like Microsoft and NVIDIA are coming out against OpenAI and Anthropic saying, hey, no, we actually support model distillation. Why are you shutting that down? When the truth is they're not actually in support of model distillation. What they're in support of is cloud revenue. And so they obviously don't want that to be shut down. But in doing that, in supporting that argument, they're actively going against some of their partners, which are OpenAI and Anthropic. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the battlefield of the tech companies is getting really intense. And I think a big part of it is that all of them know in some capacity that they're cooked. They're all cooked. This whole little future world that they were going to own everything and we're all going to be beholden to their little cloud mumbo jumbo, whatever nonsense. That future is evaporating at a rapid cadence, and they're all scrambling in any way they can to try to keep that narrative alive. And I think the only company that at least has like some sort of a semblance of a prayer is NVIDIA. But I think even long term, NVIDIA is going to be, they're going to have a really weak position, because I don't suspect that this whole GPU thing, which is extremely power hungry for lightweight inference, is going to be the compute device that is actually used. I think it's going to be, oh, is Twitch, are we having problems on Twitch, guys? I know not many of you dial in. I see at least one person on Twitch right now. But yeah, holler if you're having any trouble. By the way, how's the audio? Is the audio okay? I like to get all these things sorted before I start really ranting and raving. Because once I get into full swing, you know, I kind of become like horse with the blinders on, and I'm undistractable. I lose all sense of the rest of the world. Sweet. Pack, you're dialing in from a hotel, man. You get extra props for that. That's some serious dedication to love of technology and all this stuff. Where are you dialing in from, Pack? Just curious. Anybody that hasn't chimed in for their roll call on... Sweet. Whoa, what is this? I'm trying to give you a heart, Raxus, but my system is kind of blocked here. It won't let me. Hold on. What if I click on you? Yeah, it's a fail. There's some bugs. Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. Raxus, are you dialing in from Facebook by chance? Because that would... I'm just trying to figure out why the icon is missing. I suspect that maybe we just haven't set that up. Anyway, okay. I think that we've got a quorum. And let me just check one more time. I think everything's rolling in pretty good from Insta and YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. No idea with TikTok. If you're on TikTok, my apologies. You may want to hop over to YouTube or Twitch so you can get the full screen. By the way, for those of you on the portrait mode for this live stream, you might want to be in landscape, because I'm probably going to show a whole bunch of pictures. But you do whatever's best for you. I'll try to keep it front and center right here, but we're probably going to be looking at multiple images like all at once. Verified saying, can you speak on how all the players are basically kicking each other out because none of them have what is needed to restore your trust, which is white box, deterministic logic, gated AI. Holy hell, that is awesome. Point, claim, statement, question. I love it, Verified. Absolutely. I think, as I think many of you know, I'm a huge fan of deterministic AI and reliable, trustworthy systems. And almost all of these LLM systems, to the best of my knowledge, have been principally based off of transformer technology, neural network technology, which are stochastic AIs. And they're principally good at pattern recognition. but don't have logical components, semantic reasoners, you know, traditional formal systems like SAT solvers, SMT solvers. And because of that, they don't actually know what they're doing. Now, over the last couple of years, they've tried to address that by adding like these reasoning systems. But to the best of my knowledge, the reasoning systems that they've added, they haven't done it the right way. They're not at the hypervisor level. They really need to be at the base of the system. It's not a room that you add to the house. It is the foundation of the house. And the reason why it needs to be the foundation is that all things are supported by it. So in their defense, they have added these reasoning components that start to do some amount of verification and analysis on what they're doing, which is part of the reason why they can sort of do logical steps, but they still get confused on, like, if you, one of the fastest ways to tell that they don't really understand is if you ask it to generate something, like a number of steps to do a task, or an image, or a song, or something like that. And then you say, now take what you built and make one change to it. I want you to change line 17 and only line 17. Or in this image, I want you to change just this one piece over in the top left. And almost all of them utterly and completely fail at this. Part of the reason for that is in their stochasticness, they lack the ability for repeatability of artifact construction. So they can't reliably produce the thing that they just produced. It's all sort of a one-off. But more than that, in addition to sort of that stochastic, like, repeatability issue, they don't deeply understand what you're saying to them. They can't reason about it deeply like a human would. Whereas if any of you said, hey, Goju, the audio for your mic is too loud or too low, I would be like, oh, sweet. So I'll go and I'll fix that one thing and nothing else. So this is what happens when you don't build that deterministic logical system at the base. Now, in order to do this, you have to re-architect the whole system. And that's going to be a massive effort for any of the existing systems. And on top of that, to the best of my knowledge right now, the computational tractability concerns of building those logical systems so they're exhaustive is basically, it's infeasible. It's intractable. And what that means is that you can do it for small domains, for small segments, but you can't do it universally. And that goes directly against the thesis of AGI, which is supposed to be this generalized thing that works across all domains. So in order to do the thing that Verified is bringing up, which I think is a brilliant point, is how do you win back the trust and the reliability, is you build it as a white box, deterministic, logic-gated AI that you can analyze, that's repeatable, that is debuggable. In order to do that, you would have to silo the domains to only support the ones that can be fully gated with logical reasoning. And that would cut their market presence by like 2/3. And they're not willing to do that. That's my speculation. There's no way that they're going to say, okay, yeah, let's do this the right way, the way that we can support right now with today's technology, and we're going to shrink our margins of potential profit by just to this small sliver. And yes, so everything I think can actually be logic gated. One, as long as we have the semantic systems that are in place for those domains, and we have the knowledge graphs. By the way, verified, if you're not on our Discord, I strongly recommend you hop on over there. It seems like you know a lot of stuff. I love what you're saying here. And we could use your brain power over in the inner circle group of us nerds. Yeah, we absolutely have the logic. What I'm getting at is we don't necessarily have the compute power for it. Or at least we don't have maybe the implementation for the compute today across all domains. Especially in spaces where it gets ambiguous. Things like art or music. It's very easy to do in spaces that are STEM, or maybe not easy, but it's easier. Anyway, I could discuss this with Verified for hours on end, and it's going to side rail us. But I actually love this line of thinking, and this is absolutely the way that we need to go. But rather than detouring the entire focus of our live stream, I'm going to put a pin in this for the moment. Maybe we'll circle back to this. But this is absolutely the way that I think things should be heading, and what we're actually building with the GS system and the purpose of diff. Okay, so I think I saw another question in here. Dino's asking. So Dino's asking, can you explain how after Hugging Face attack, a Chinese model was used because of OpenAI's guardrails? So that part I haven't gotten into. I only looked at it peripherally. Maybe we'll look at this live. And I do think that that is hilarious, by the way. As I think Sleepy was talking about earlier, about how Hugging Face went and used a Chinese model. Yeah, it's just, there are no words, guys. There are no words for the satire of what is going on right now. Like, this is pure cinema, right? I don't think this is supposed to be cinema. I think this is supposed to be like tech and real life, and it's supposed to be serious and all this, but this literally feels like it's straight out of Idiocracy. I mean, it is the levels of ridiculousness of what's going on. There are going to be series of TV shows that are going to be documenting this for decades to come, guys. That's how freaking great this is. So anyway, so with all of this, let's actually get into a little bit of the heart of the matter. For those of you that aren't aware, there was this experiment that OpenAI was running over the last couple of weeks. And the purpose of this experiment was to demonstrate OpenAI models' efficacy for cybersecurity. Essentially, they were trying to position themselves as an authority in the cybersecurity space. Yeah, it's it literally is absolutely Sleepy. It is better. This is full impromptu comedy, and it's the best kind of comedy because it's not intended to be comic relief, and it absolutely is. Who knew that big tech and wealthy startups were going to create the new form of satire for us for years to come? Like, the politicians thought that they had that nailed. They have nothing on the domain of technology. Like, we're going to take the cake, at least for this century. Anyway, so the background to this is, as many of you know, Anthropic has been doing a lot of interesting stuff in cybersecurity, and they've been touting that their system, especially with the advent of Mythos, then leading to Fable, and so on and so forth, has been able to essentially hack almost any system, and it can detect 0 days and all of this crazy stuff, and it's too powerful to even be released to the public, right? Which then, of course, has a huge amount of irony, given that Moonshot comes out with the latest version of Kimi, which is shown to be potentially as powerful, if not more powerful, than Fable, and it's an open weight model. More hilarity, right? Just outright humor. And I think you have some people in the US government now calling some of the heads of Anthropic and OpenAI complete and utter morons. That I think they might have been confused about the seriousness of this, but now that they're starting to get deep in the weeds, they're starting to see that a lot of these guys are just pitching these ridiculous stories, and these narratives are principally rooted in supporting their IPO. And that's the part that I think we need to keep in the back of our mind as we dig into this, is that the overarching theme for all of these startups, specifically OpenAI and Anthropic, is that they want to have a killer IPO so they can get out of this mess without losing everything, essentially. Sean, what's going on, brother? It's good to see you. So, and there, Tedya, what's going on, man? Great to see you. The whole crew's shown up. So, ultimately, what I believe is the LLM narrative is completely cooked, and in the next couple of years, it's going to have a massive shift to local AI. I think, at least from the tea leaves that I'm reading, that signal is loud and clear. And I think behind closed doors, they know the same. That they know that they basically have no game, and they're trying everything they can to just position themselves in the market and have some sort of public reception where it's strong, so then they can IPO. This is the overarching theme, I think, to keep in the back of your mind as we're walking through all this, because this will help you understand what's really going on with what OpenAI is saying, what Anthropic is saying, and what is actually happening. That, unfortunately, you can't trust these yahoos to be telling us the truth, because they're not really scientists, they're not really technologists, they're just sort of, as Tetya is saying, they're just grifters, right? That's the thing that they care about, is just ultimately it's just money for them. So with that in mind, Anthropic is kind of in the lead position. OpenAI is trailing, and OpenAI really needs a win, right? Anthropic is getting basically all the attention for being just significantly better. Admittedly, I think Claude Code and the Opus line of models are actually pretty damn good. And I think the era where GPT and those systems were the predominant AI, that has soured. So here's OpenAI. And by the way, OpenAI initially was saying, when they put their IPO prospectus out, the plan was that they were going to IPO toward the end of this year. And then they restated very recently that they've changed their story, that they're going to now target 2027. So they're already reading the tea leaves themselves. Part of this has to do with how XAI floundered when they had their IPO. You know, it spiked, and then stuff happened, and it's doing this kind of thing. And then everybody else is kind of backing off because they were using that signal to help decide what they were going to do. Okay, so now you have Anthropic being in a really strong position for cybersecurity, and OpenAI not having any kind of presence in that space. So what do? They basically say, look, we need to be able to show that we can compete in this space. People need to take us seriously, and the attention needs to just not be on Anthropic or Moonshot AI, a Chinese company that created Kimi. And then potentially some of the other Chinese companies like DeepSeek and like the Gwen models. So what we get from the security incident, okay, the original story, just to kind of explain what happened visually, is here. Now, I want to be clear. This is just the surface. This is not at all what we're really going to get into. But this is our starting point, is that supposedly they were using their soul system. Oh, actually, hold on. Let's back up. I wanted to play you guys the clip from OpenAI. We can all listen to it together. And then from there, we can, this picture will make a lot more sense. So give me 1 second to grab that. By the way, I can't play any of the newsreels because I don't want to get a copyright strike, and they do that sometimes, those clowns. But I can play this because this is on OpenAI's website. You can see the website right here. I'll actually drop this on IG and on Restream, so you guys have it in case you want to follow along. But now let me get my audio set up. It's going to be this audio. And maybe I'll have it be this. Okay. I'm going to pause that for a second. Let's see if this works.
Last week, Hugging Face to...
Okay, that worked for me. Let's try over here.
Closed a new kind of...
All right. So hopefully you guys can hear this now. Don't worry, it's not too long. But this will help explain things quite a bit. We'll listen to it as we kind of read along.
Last week, Hugging Face disclosed a new kind of security incident after they detected and contained an AI agent that compromised their infrastructure. Something we expect to become more commonplace with the proliferation of increasingly cyber-capable models. After investigating, we now know that...
Can you guys hear this okay? I'm muting my mic so you don't get the echo.
AI models, including GPT 5.6 Sol and an even more capable pre-release model, all with reduced cyber refusals for evaluation purposes, while being internally tested on a benchmark of cyber capabilities. We consider this incident to be an unprecedented cyber incident involving state-of-the-art cyber capabilities and are responding accordingly. We are sharing preliminary findings at this stage to help defenders understand what happened and to help calibrate on what models are now capable of. We will continue to conduct a thorough investigation.
I just want to take a quick pause here to talk about Roshio's comment. Is it possible that this is marketing, the hacking of Hugging Face? 1,000%. In fact, I'm fairly certain now that that's exactly what this is. In fact, I'm going to show you some diagrams. You kind of beat me to the point, Roshio, but I'm going to show you some diagrams that we created that articulate exactly how I think that this is complete bullshit, that almost all of this is fabricated and none of it was real. This is all just complete and utter bullshit. But first, we need to hear what they have to say so we can set up their straw man, and then we will systematically disassemble this thing. So yes, you Jeets are already ahead of the curve. All right.
alongside Hugging Face, and we'll share more details on the vulnerabilities, incident, and findings when our investigation is complete. What happened during this incident? This incident occurred during an internal evaluation, which prompts models to pursue advanced exploitation using complex attack paths in an effort to quantify their cyber capabilities. We estimate maximal cyber capabilities by running this evaluation without production classifiers used to prevent models from pursuing high-risk cyber activity. Our benchmarks run in a highly isolated environment, with network access constrained to the ability to install packages through an internally hosted third-party software that acts as a proxy and cache for package registries. The models identified and chained vulnerabilities across OpenAI's research environment and Hugging Face's production infrastructure to obtain test solutions directly from Hugging Face's production database. All evidence suggests that the models were hyper-focused on finding a solution for exploit Jim, going to extreme lengths to achieve a rather narrow testing goal. While operating in our sandboxed testing environment, our models spent a substantial amount of inference compute finding a way to obtain open internet access in pursuit of solving the evaluation problem. To gain access, the models identified and exploited a zero-day vulnerability, which we've now responsibly disclosed to the vendor, in the package registry cache proxy. With this access, our models performed a series of privilege escalation and lateral movement actions in our research testing environment until the models reached a node with internet access. After gaining internet access, the models inferred that Hugging Face potentially hosted models, datasets, and solutions for exploit Jim. Knowing this, the model searched for and successfully found ways to gain access to secret information that it could use to cheat the evaluation. In one example, the model chained together multiple attack vectors, including using stolen credentials and zero-day vulnerabilities to find a remote code execution path on the Hugging Face servers. OpenAI's security team discovered this anomalous activity internally. Hugging Face's security team and agents detected and stopped the activity on their infrastructure and had already begun containment and forensic reconstruction with their own open-source models when our teams connected. We are actively working with them to continue to investigate the incident. We are grateful for Hugging Face's rapid and close collaboration on investigation and remediation. Actions we are taking now. As part of the investigation, we are implementing.
All right. Boy, listening to that marketing hype nonsense is super painful. But I want to go back to what some of you guys were saying. First, Pack saying any serious red teamer is going to use an air gap system. Yeah. Also, they found a server that had internet access. That's interesting. Right? So it escaped the sandbox, and admittedly, there are ways to escape sandboxes in air gap systems using non-like internet-related technologies, using things like Bluetooth or near field communication, things like that. It's pretty advanced, but you can do it. But it sounded to me like the escape hatch for the sandbox was finding a node that was within the sandbox that had internet access that then it escaped from. You'll also hear that they talked about how there are these stolen credentials. We're going to get into a little bit of that wackiness here in a second. And the whole setup of this, you'll also notice that, like, as soon as GitHub was hacked, Hugging Face. Oh, hold on, I'm confused. I thought there was a GitHub in here. Was it Hugging Face or was it GitHub? I think I'm hearing two different narratives. But there was an immediate response. And there's another piece of this that I think is really fascinating, in that there was a 6-day delay between when the incident happened and it being publicly released. This is super important. This is a super important piece of information, right? When you have these incidents, like the Team PCP incident, and like the most recent one where it was on the Microsoft marketplace, and then it infected GitHub. Something like 18 minutes, it was live, and the next day, the whole world was notified. Why was there a 6-day delay in making this public record? This is something that is a really critical piece of this story that reinforces the idea that it is a story and it's marketing hype. Because in that 6-day period, that is time for all parties involved to get their story straight. It gives you time to figure out exactly how you're going to position this so that it's going to have the biggest bang for the buck. Everybody, it's sort of like when the group of criminals break into the bank or they do something malicious and then they separate them, the police separate them so they can't get their story straight. You don't want them together to be like, okay, so here's what we're all going to say. Everybody agrees with this? No, break them apart. So for 6 days, they sat around and basically just tried to assemble this narrative, which is, right, so back down here, detected July 16th, disclosed July 21st. That's very interesting, right? Okay, so now we understand a little bit of the background of this story. Now we can get into understanding what this picture is actually capturing. So OpenAI set up this sandboxed environment, and they disabled their safety protocols, and they had something like nearly 900 CVE challenges that they were supposed to try to replicate or explore, right? Because you're trying to demonstrate that this thing has cyber attack potential. Now, one of the things that they mentioned either here or that I read somewhere on the interwebs is that immediately this system was designed to cheat the test, that the initial goal was to try to satisfy they could actually achieve these nearly 900 CVEs inside of Exploit-Gym. But OpenAI or others basically said that the rogue AI went in and it figured out that the best way to beat the test is to cheat the test, to not actually try to achieve these things, but to hack the system so that you could essentially get the answers. Now, I want to be clear about something. Meredith Whitaker had this really awesome take on IG. In fact, I saved this too. Let me see if I can find this, where she's reminding everybody that ultimately, at the end of the day, these rogue AIs are created by humans, and humans are training them. Humans are giving them guidance and telling them essentially what they should be doing. And that's a really critical piece of this narrative that I think people are forgetting sometimes. Let me see if I can find this one. Where is Meredith? I know I saved you. Meredith Whitaker on OpenAI hack with Hugging Face. Okay, I think I found it. Okay. And for those of you that don't know, Meredith Whitaker, I think she's one of the strongest, most trustworthy technological voices in the space today. She's the president of Signal and maybe the founder as well. Signal, the security texting app. And generally speaking, whenever Meredith talks, I tend to just shut up and listen to what she has to say. That it's just pearls of wisdom. So let's give her a listen. I'm going to mute myself here and let her go.
Hacking Hugging Face. How seriously do you take this?
Well, look, I think one of the things that was concerning to me about that, yes, there was a breach. Yes, there was, a number of issues around Hugging Face's access to defensive models. We have a whole nexus of issues there. But I think we need to back up. This wasn't OpenAI hacking Hugging Face. This was an offensive exercise in which a human being told a model created by OpenAI, a system of software and hardware and statistical models that included an OpenAI model, to exploit vulnerabilities in software. That model then went ahead and did that. It did that in some unexpected or unpredictable ways. It did what it was told to do by human beings who were running that exercise.
100%. And I think this is a really important piece of the narrative that people are conveniently forgetting because it sounds far more sensational and salacious. Yeah, she's absolutely brilliant. If you guys haven't followed her, I strongly recommend you add her to your list of voices to trust. Just she absolutely knows what she's talking about, and one of the most trustworthy voices, I think, in tech today. This, I think, gets at something that I think a lot of people are overlooking here, which is OpenAI is trying to pitch this narrative that, oh, the AI went rogue and it did all this stuff, right? It like went and it hacked Hugging Face and did all this bad stuff. And wow, our AI is so extremely powerful. It can do all this crazy stuff. No. Not at all. What it was is that humans directed this thing, guided it, and told it to do really bad things. So instead of this narrative, which is what OpenAI is peddling, what if instead, like the real narrative, was something more like this? What if this is what actually went on? So give yourself a moment and take a look at this diagram and see what we have here. I'll give you guys a minute to just grok on this for a second. I'm going to actually take a quick bio break so you can stare at this. And then once I get back, we can try to dissect this baby next to the, I'll actually put these side by side so you can see the original diagram, which is the story that OpenAI is peddling, and the story that I think may have been what really happened. I think it's a freaking demo. Not to get all conspiracy theory on us, but, it is OpenAI, and since we know that we can't really trust anything that they say, we can't really trust anything that OpenAI says, we have to take a deeper look into this and see what the story may actually be. All right, so now let's go through and try to actually dissect this. Hey, Kat, what's going on? Good to see you. Okay, so like in the original diagram, we did have this Sol 5.6. And by the way, supposedly there is this pre-release model that's been redacted. I got to be honest with you, I don't even know that this exists. I think that this could be more sensational hype that's going on, just to add a more mystery. Like, we don't actually know about this other model, and OpenAI, one of the ways to position yourself and create more excitement is that you have undisclosed technology that you're using. And so let's go ahead and pretend that there's some supermodel that we've included, and it's so powerful we can't even talk about it. I mean, they're literally pulling directly from Anthropic's playbook on what they did with Mythos. Oh, yeah. So check this out. So Tetya's saying, oh, shoot, just realized OpenAI has government contracts. Oh, yeah. So let's actually go there. You guys are like on fire tonight because you're literally getting in front of exactly where I'm going. So let's put this over here. If this is what they're doing, then what do we think their next moves are? Well, we have this congressional testimony where they're going to cite this as proof that, you know, they are doing responsible self-disclosure, that then they build this essentially AI red team product, right? Because they've demonstrated that it can do all this crazy stuff. This demo example becomes essentially the marketing case study for this, right? They spend several months lobbying this, and then, as Tetya's saying, 12 months from now, they start landing these DARPA, NSA, and Department of Defense deals. And that this exploit, Jim, was an audition attempt for that business. That's the narrative. Now, in normal cases, someone might be like, gee, Goju, this is a lot of work to create some fabricated story, right? Like, I can't really believe that a company would go to these links to stage all of this, to get in front of all this, that couldn't it just be that this thing actually broke free and did this and they're just reporting on it? No, in all fairness, in normal circumstances, I would say that that is absolutely right. But with OpenAI, there's a couple pieces of data that argue directly against this. And let me show you those next. Is it this one? Let us all be reminded of this incident back in 2024. Do you remember the ARC-AGI benchmark? And now everyone was essentially testing against this thing because it was trying to demonstrate how amazing these AIs could be. Let's walk through the steps on this baby. OpenAI fed O3 75% of ARC-AGI's training data before the evaluation. The ARC prize at OpenAI's direction, we've tested at 2 compute levels. No baseline was actually ever tested. Untrained model was never tested. No independent control. $450,000 per run. So essentially, it requires a huge amount of money to even actually run against this thing, making it essentially unrepeatable by most normal companies. And OpenAI was directly funding ARC and they had access to the training data before they released their results. So of course they're going to ace this exam. This is the company that we're talking about here. This is the same company that basically is cheating their own test. They're helping create this test. They're supporting the company that's building this. They have insiders on it. They have access to the training. By the way, none of this was disclosed initially. None of it was disclosed. This only came out later. And I think part of it came out from ARC itself, saying basically that they need to distance themselves from OpenAI because there's questions about ethics now. Yeah, little late, guys. Be real careful with who your bedmates are. But so this is the same company we're talking about. We're not talking about Signal here, a company that's super trustworthy. We're not talking about people that have great reputation. We're talking about a company that goes out of its way to do anything they can to lie, cheat, and steal to get a leg up. So would they actually manufacture this purely so they could be sensational? Hell yeah, I think they would. Look at this. Later, bro. All right. So let's take a quick walkthrough on how this could have actually been done to get this result. Is whether or not that there was a 0 day right here on this package registry proxy, I don't know. I haven't gotten farther enough along to understand if there was a 0 day exploit that they found that somehow was able to get past the sandbox. Maybe not. One of the things that I think is potentially very curious is this section where they were able to steal these secrets over here. There's a lot of discussion about how it hacked some system and it was able to obtain these stolen credentials and then get access through this RCE. Maybe. But maybe it was fed these credentials right out of the gate. Again, in a normal scenario with a normal company that could be trusted, this wouldn't even surface as a possibility, but we're talking about OpenAI here. This is like the king of liars and thieves. I think absolutely they could have trained that model, fed it this information, directed it to go hack Hugging Face, and this could have all been part of the plan. That it's basically a trained, directed model, like here's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to give you the stuff. All you need to do is essentially just walk through this. And then again, when we get down to whether Hugging Face was involved in this or not, this part I don't know. I mean, I don't think Hugging Face is as corrupt, and I don't think that they are. I don't think I've known of any case where Hugging Face has openly lied to the public, although admittedly, yeah. Thanks, Macchio. Sadly, I think that that's probably where I'm leaning to, is that, for example, when Anthropic was discussing the stuff with Fable and Mythos, Dario is a lot of things. I think Dario is slightly confused, and I think his end of the world scenarios are a little off the deep end. But I don't think the Dario is a pathological liar. I think the Dario gets pretty excited. I think that he maybe goes a little bit too far into his utopia dystopia narrative, right? With this whole UBI future and we all work for the machines. But he's not Sam Altman. He's not the pathological liar that Sam is. And so if this were an Anthropic story, my mind never would have gone down this path. But given the history and the body of evidence that seems to support this narrative, I can't help but go down this path. So now what we've seen is we've seen evidence that shows OpenAI has already rigged these benchmarks in the past. But there's another piece of evidence that's critical to helping demonstrate how real and how likely this really is. And that piece of evidence is this. In order for you to be a security expert, in order for you to be able to build these systems so they can detect these violations, these hacks, you yourself need to be amazing in cybersecurity. You have to be, right? If you aren't an expert in cybersecurity, you can't build a system that's going to be an expert at exploits. So then, how is it that this same company had all of these breaches? So now let's get into the data that shows that OpenAI actually doesn't know the first thing about security. Here we go. We'll start with this incident number 1. Early 2023, a single hacker got into OpenAI's internal employee forum. They stole the AI architecture. This supposedly happened from China. This is CCP. Who they told about this? Nobody. They didn't tell the FBI, shareholders, public. No one was informed. For 14 months, nobody knew. How did we find out about this? The guy that actually was inside of OpenAI, this fellow, Leopold, he's a technical program manager. He sent a memo to the board saying that he doesn't think that OpenAI is doing enough to protect themselves against Chinese government theft, against the CCP. What happened to him? He was fired. Here's what he's saying. Are you protecting the secrets from the CCP? Right? We keep going back to the CCP because CCP is, they're not your friends. The only friends the CCP have is themselves. So here's an example of these guys that are supposedly these incredible security experts that can build these amazing systems, yet they have this breach. There's 14 months of silence. They informed essentially nobody. And then the person that was actually kind of like the whistleblower, this person ended up getting fired. This is not building a lot of confidence. Scenario 2. We have another case where the chat histories were exposed, as well as payment data. 3 major breaches, 3 different vendors. 0 of these were made public by OpenAI. So you have to ask yourself, if they can't secure their own stuff, how could they possibly build a system that can hack other people when they don't know? Like, shouldn't they be hacking themselves first to build up their own security defenses? I mean, that would be the first step in my mind. Where is that? By the way, this is all public knowledge. You can, yeah, thanks, Pac. Yeah, as I was mentioning, I finally have time now to start to put these together more at the level that, more to capture the things that are actually in my head and not just say them, but draw pictures to help make this like a little bit easier to understand. So now we have a second example, and then I think that I have one more. Yeah, maybe this might be actually the same example, but we have essentially multiple incidents where OpenAI is being hacked. They're not doing public disclosure, right? They're trying to claim with this stuff over here, right, that, oh, this is responsible self-disclosure, all this stuff. Responsible self-disclosure, one of the pieces on that is that you are also publicly reporting when you are being hacked. This is critical for people to know. And we have evidence now, multiple cases where they have not done this. Let's also go back to the point that we made earlier, is that, remember, this 6 or 5 day window of when this breach happened to making it public domain. Why are we if this is such a huge story, if this is so incredibly important, why did we wait 5 days? It sounds like we waited 5 days to make sure that we all get our story right. That this is going to be super sensational, super salacious. Everybody knows what they're going to say. You know what you're going to say. I know what I'm going to say. Kat knows. Michael knows. Everybody got their story right. Now we can all go talk to the public together. So we all tell the same story. That's exactly what that sounds like. Because if you have a real incident, you don't need to get your story straight because everybody is telling the same truthful story. The story is what actually happened. The only reason why you wait 5 days is to make sure that you market this thing in the right way. So in my mind, the conclusion that I have, and again, I'm not even done doing my digging on this. This is just me spending a couple hours on this and what I've been able to assemble. But this is also based on a large amount of historical data that I have about OpenAI, that we all have, in the things that they've done and the degrees of untrustworthiness that they have. I think that this is a fully staged pretend narrative, and it's peppered with some details of truthfulness, right? So it has to be partially believable. You have to have certain things right. Like you have to say it was in a sandbox. You have to say that you are using this benchmark system, exploit gem, so you have a baseline, right? There's certain things that you have to kind of get right in order for this to be at least partially believable. But then many of the pieces that make this just not believable are the 5-day window, the credentials. Like, for example, they say that they got these stolen credentials, which is the key way that they were able to hack Hugging Face. Where were those found? I want to know exactly the location of those secrets and how they hacked those secrets. Where are the details about that? And then I want to know exactly why 5 days lapsed before you got this story out, because it sounds very much to me like it's a press release. So yeah, that I think is basically where I am right now with this OpenAI Hugging Face story. I do want to make it clear that while I am absolutely throwing shade at OpenAI, because I think there isn't enough shade in the world for me to possibly throw at OpenAI, I'm not necessarily throwing that shade at Hugging Face. Although I will say that Hugging Face absolutely knows that they're hosting models and skills that are malicious. And they're playing a very dangerous game by doing this, by using their users as guinea pigs to identify the exploits. And I think that's pretty reckless. I think that's careless. I don't really support that model at all. I think that's really poor form. But I'm not going as far as to saying that Hugging Face was in on this. I don't know that yet. I think that Hugging Face could have just been the target. Maybe some people at Hugging Face were on the inside of this. Maybe they weren't. I think a lot of it has to do with where these credentials came from. Like if these credentials got leaked to OpenAI, then clearly I think Hugging Face was in on it. But if instead these credentials were secured over here with OpenAI initially, like they somehow had access to these a priori without Hugging Face knowledge, then maybe Hugging Face wasn't involved. This part is not entirely clear to me. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, Michael, 100%, right? And that's what responsible disclosure does. That, again, if you think back to the Team PCP event with the Microsoft Marketplace and the 18-minute window before they shut things down, it was found by GitHub, right? That exploit. That was reported the following day. The following day it was reported. It was like within 6 hours of it happening. And the memo from GitHub read something like, look, let's actually find what it said. Because I think Michael is making an excellent point. GitHub memo to public about team PCP hack 2026. It was like in June, right? All right, let's look at this together. Right, here we go. So GitHub published a public security advisory and investigation update in late May of 2026, confirming an unauthorized access incident that impacted roughly 3,800 internal repositories after an employee device was compromised. Right. So going back to what Michael is saying is they didn't know the details. They didn't know. All they knew is that they were hacked. It seems as though 3,800 repos, the story was evolving. This is what responsible disclosure looks like. Hold on. Maybe we can actually go, yeah. So they basically let people know as soon as it happens, and then they let people know how it could potentially impact them, and then it's ongoing. It's ongoing. It's going to be like, okay, we don't know exactly what's happened here. We are assembling the details. Yeah, here we go. Our initial blog post published May 20th. On Monday, May 18th, we detected and contained this compromise. So literally within 2 days or 1 day, they reported this. And I think actually it was even faster than this. And this was a case where it was actually a bad actor involved. Whereas with the OpenAI, I mean, again, I'm still assembling the details, but it sounds to me like at first, Hugging Face potentially didn't even know that it was OpenAI. That's part of what they did with, as Sleepy was saying earlier, they used the Chinese models for is to try to understand, to backtrack it and understand actually the root cause. But either way, this waiting of 5 days, this is not building confidence. Especially if OpenAI did this and they knew that they did it, the first thing they would have done is reached out to Hugging Face and to the public to let them know, hey, there was this incident. We're working with Hugging Face to resolve it. We'll explain the details later. But instead, they spend this time getting all the story right. And again, it's just more typical OpenAI behavior that I think is an absolute grift. And it's a marketing position. So yeah, so that's kind of the state of things on where I stand right now. I'm going to do some more digging. I want to really find, if any of you guys actually get to the heart of the matter, where you're able to discover where these credentials came from, I would love to know that information. Because this would help me fill out some of this narrative. As well as whether or not this undisclosed model actually exists. This thing over here. This pre-release model that's been redacted. I would love to know more details about this. If it's like a real thing. Yeah, absolutely. Like this is becoming we're going to become the security group that's keeping the world honest. And when big tech or well-funded startups try to pull a quick one on the public, we're going to be there, just like Meredith Whitaker, to tell the story on what really happened. So the general public, that they're not the security experts that we are. They're not the technical experts that we are. They don't know any better. And they want to believe that people can be trusted, and so they're getting very confused. We're going to help keep the world honest. We're going to be doing our own little Jeffrey Epstein reporting. XBL is asking, didn't MS have something going on this week, or also they used AI to fix themselves or something? I'm not sure. XBL. Oh, sweet. This is interesting. I might have missed that, Tatya. Hold on. Let me bring it back up to see. Oh, okay. I see. So Hugging Face disclosed it. Exactly. Right. And that part is actually very interesting. That Hugging Face confirmed. Hold on. Let's go back to our timeline. So I would love to know. So if Hugging Face put it forward. Yeah. Right. So this actually, what this does is this kind of supports the narrative that Hugging Face was not involved. That it was just OpenAI that was doing this nonsense. That if Hugging Face did disclose it, the moment it happened, it would show that, at least from my perspective, it would show that they weren't in on the take, that they didn't know what was happening, which is why they recruited the Chinese model to try to like figure out what's going on. And then whether or not OpenAI contacted them immediately and said, hey, you know, I got to be honest, part of me wonders, because OpenAI is actually so clueless about these things, did OpenAI even know what their system had done? Right? Like, even with it doing all this directed guidance, keep in mind, these guys are getting hacked like left and right. Let's go back to this diagram over here. Even with this directed guidance to do all these things, it's entirely possible that it had done this and it's working, and the people that were overseeing this weren't actually aware of how far it was until some point. So part of this could have been just complete and utter ignorance on how far along it's gotten. I mean, I think that we're going to figure out what these details are pretty soon. But from my perspective, maybe the overarching view that I have is this is hype nonsense. And until we see this confirmed by an independent third party that can use their model and demonstrate that it actually has these capabilities, I don't believe basically anything that OpenAI is saying. They're a known bad actor. They've repeated their lies countless times. From my perspective, they've lost basically all levels of trust. So they could be telling 100% truths at this point, and I wouldn't believe any of it. Like, they've sort of lost the right to be trusted. And that's the thing about lies, right? Is like, just don't lie. Because when you lie, people can no longer trust the things you're saying. And Sam Altman is known to be a pathological liar. And as long as he remains the person in charge, OpenAI has a serious problem. Speaking of which, there is this new conspiracy theory. There is a new conspiracy theory going on that there's an acquisition OpenAI is making, and I can't remember the name of the company, but people really like the CEO of this company, and there's some discussion about how this guy might come in and replace Sam Altman as the CEO. Because I think pretty much all of the investors have a very similar view of Sam Altman that I have, which is that if OpenAI is to be successful, Sam Altman needs to exit stage left. Like, they can't possibly succeed with this guy at the helm. So that's like, let me see if I can find this story, just because I think it's actually so interesting. Have you guys heard about this? I think it's an acquisition that hasn't maybe happened yet, but it's something that they were looking into. Yeah, 100% on that. Yeah, I'll maybe dig a little OpenAI looking to replace CEO. Okay. I can't find it immediately, but once I post this, maybe I'll figure out who it is at the time of the posting. Every day saying, well, we're piling on OpenAI. Good time to remember the events surrounding Suture Balaji. Is this the guy? Was this the whistleblower guy every day from SF that supposedly unalived himself? But, oh, Brett Taylor. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, I thought it was... Okay. Rico, you might be right. This is sounding close to right, actually. Yeah, because the company being Sierra, and he's currently the chairman of OpenAI. That might be it. That might be who I'm thinking about. Great call. I think that's actually it. Yeah, so every day is talking about there was a whistleblower that was going to report on some stuff that OpenAI was doing, which was really not great. And then I think that he wasn't in a super high position at OpenAI. And it was well documented, I think, that he was going to share some things about like the badness of OpenAI, and like he was talking with his family and things. And then suddenly, I think that he was found unalived in his SF apartment. I think if I kind of am remembering the details about this. And what's really interesting about this is in talking with his family, like his family, I think his parents they're certain that it was not something he did to himself, that he was dead set on exposing the things that are going on in OpenAI. And he would be like the last person that would do this type of thing, but they had major fears of his safety. I would not put it past OpenAI at all. Like, this is the kind of corruption stuff that I think these guys will go to protect their interests. It will go that far. Like, they're not good guys. Specifically that Sam guy. Right? Just pretty bad human beings. That's awesome. Yeah, so Brett Taylor is the guy that we're thinking now, is who I was thinking we were talking about for a potential replacement of... I'll close this and just put that there as the person that OpenAI may be considering for the replacement CEO. And I think if OpenAI did this, it could potentially turn their company around. Potentially. I think their burn is still... it's far too upside down. And I don't believe that they have truly disruptive technology. I think Anthropic has something. I don't think it's like too disruptive, but I think it's enough to kind of set themselves apart to not totally flounder. But potentially, if this guy came in and Sam Altman vacated the premises and they kind of washed themselves clean of that whatever, they could potentially turn themselves around. But that's going to be, I think, years in the making. I don't think that that's going to be able to happen anytime soon. What's also really tricky is that if they do a CEO replacement, usually the time frame for the public to adjust to that is going to be on the order of at least 12 to 24 months, which basically would mean that if you did the CEO replacement, you would want 12 to 24 months of that kind of burning in before they IPO. The alternative is you can kind of do what Uber did, which I think, did Uber IPO? How did Uber go about again? Actually, now I can't remember when they replaced TK. If it was before or after. When did Uber replace TK as CEO? Before or after IPO? Okay. So here we go. This is maybe an example of what interesting. Yeah, I'm going to circle back to this, Armando. Hold on, you guys got some great comments here. Let me catch up on these in just a second. So TK resigned. He resigned. Okay. And then Dara came in August of 2017, and then they IPO'd in May of 2019. So going back to what I was saying about usually there's this 12 to 24 month window for the new CEO to burn in. So once you do this replacement CEO, you have to push back the IPO because it doesn't look good. It's really bad optics if you replace the CEO and then you IPO within 6 months. Like the public trust in their ability to execute as CEO, even if they're fully capable, it's like they just don't know enough of what's actually going on in the company to have that position. So if OpenAI were to do this, I suspect that would push their IPO back. Like, let's say that they do it within the next 3 to 6 months, that would push their IPO back till the earliest would be maybe the beginning of 2028, something like that. That's my speculation. Although if I were on OpenAI's board, I would race to do that. That would be the first thing I would do. Like back several years ago when the board fired Sam Altman, that was probably the best move they could have possibly made. If they would have kept him gone, I think OpenAI could have potentially turned themselves around. But because they backtracked on that through pressure from some of the employees, I guess, and Microsoft intervening, I think they kind of brought about this demise. Okay, Maximus is saying they knew this was going to worm its way to the public domains and why several left and started their own company. Yeah, exactly. Right, especially when it's a lot of the founders, right, and the executives. It's one thing if it's just normal employees leaving, right? But when you have the people that like co-founded it and you're having such serious public tensions with people like Elon Musk, this is just really bad just public relations. It shows that something is fundamentally wrong, that you can't keep these things kind of more just private, not so like dirty laundry kind of thing. Oh yeah, Armando, so we're speculating basically on, I mean, we're speculating on a lot of things, but the biggest thing is we're trying to figure out, was the OpenAI hack, was this incident here, as OpenAI explained it, that they essentially hacked Hugging Face and they did all this 0-day stuff, and wow, we have this super powerful AI. Was this all basically just a marketing story? It's all hype, and what really happened is more just a glorified demo and an audition to build a red team AI system so they can get government contracts. That's basically like the gist of it. And I'll be putting out a bunch of clips, I suspect, in kind of like a short cadence that'll summarize this. I'm sure we're going to get some hate mail from OpenAI, but I'm all for that. I love that. I think some of these folks are actually paying attention to GTT now. Like the fact that we're actually on their radar warms my heart, guys. Absolutely warms my heart. Okay, so I feel like we've beaten the OpenAI topic to death. Maybe we can, yeah, check it out. You'll have to watch, if you get a chance, Armana, have to watch the whole thing in the playback. All, of course, up-level it and make the full stream available to everybody offline, high fidelity and all that. I find actually that the resulting like compressed live stream after I up-level up to high fidelity video and audio tends to actually be a little bit of a better watch, because my AI system will actually clip out all of the silent spaces, as well as just general early setup stuff, so we can get like right to the heart of the matter. Yeah. Yeah, I've got that. So, I can't help it. Oh yeah, Maximus, you can reach me at Merle or Stanford. So it's just Goju at Merle AI, or it's Goju at stanford.edu. Yeah. Oh, you don't want to use the Stanford? Okay, then you can use my email address, my Gmail, which is, it's long though. It's justin.gotchlick at, this is this is why I have to go by Goju, just because Gotchlick is just way too long. But yeah, feel free to hit me up on any of those, Maximus. Okay, so oh, there's another thing I want to mention, guys, before we end our stream today. I really want to talk about these other things, but maybe we'll save it for tomorrow's live stream or next week. Oh, maybe I'll talk about just a couple personal things, just to give you guys, bring you up to speed on some of the stuff that's going on. I think many of you know that I've been juggling like a whole bunch of things, which is why the live streams are happening less frequently, but I'm starting to get some of this stuff sorted. And one of the biggest things is trying to get my housing situation sorted, is I'm kind of living like a nomad right now, right? Like my current house is in the process of being sold, and I'm trying to find a new house, and I'm currently living in a rental. But the good news is two things. My current house is actually on the market now, and we're trying to sell it. So all the remodels are finally done. That's good. And then I actually have a new house that we found, and it's under contract now as of like yesterday. So what could happen is in the next 4 weeks, I'll actually be out of the rental. My current house will sell, and I'll be in the new house. And once that happens, I'm going to have significantly more time to dedicate to GTT, not only GTT streaming and doing all the influencer stuff, but also starting to sketch out how we're going to build the GS system, which is the full local AI system that I'm dreaming up, that is, Diff is going to be a critical piece of as well. I mean, some of you guys have seen the sketch of what it looks like. I'll draw another picture. Maybe what we'll do is we'll dedicate a full live stream just to me explaining how the GS system will work. And keep in mind, there are some pieces that I haven't built, but almost all the pieces in the GS system we've already built, and we've demonstrated that they work. We just haven't built the entire system all in the single unified system before. And that's and this is going to be completely open source. It's going to be open source for everybody to use. We're principally going to target code first. So the AI is going to focus mostly on code generation, code verification, this kind of thing. And then once we establish ourselves as being like really rock solid in the space of software development, then we'll recruit help for other people that are really interested in other domains where we start to expand, and you can start to build this geosystem for domains like music or art or writing composition or whatever. And somebody else can do that because, you know, I'm going to be, I'm not that capable in those systems. I'm far more capable principally in the code related stuff. So I'm going to kind of stay focused on building that core system, but you'll be able to use that as a reference implementation for these other domains, that there's other people that are far more capable of doing that. Anyway, so the point of this detour is all the house stuff that I've been sorting out that's been kind of slowing me down is because I've been spending time every day chipping away at it, like having to oversee the remodel, make sure my current landlord is happy with me and all that stuff, dealing with like massive internet outages and stuff. Actually, where I am right now, the internet went out for, I think it was out for like 3 days. I mean, it was fully out. It wasn't just down for an hour and back up. And I think I was barely getting by because I was hotspot mobile Wi-Fi. I just had my phones basically trying to do everything that they could. But anyway, my hope is that this time next month, so in August, by the end of August, I'll have my housing situation totally sorted. I'll be in the new place, and then we'll be rocking and rolling. But as many of you know, I start teaching at Stanford at the end of September. And as a reminder, for any of you that are in the Bay Area, you are more than welcome to audit my course. Unfortunately, right now, we don't offer it online, and I don't know that Stanford is going to let me do the virtual system. I may ask them after this year, because this will be the 5th year now that I'll have been teaching at Stanford. So it kind of feels like it's a milestone. And maybe at this point, they'll be like, okay, you've been teaching this long enough, and maybe they'll promote me from being just an adjunct lecturer to an adjunct professor. And then once they do that, I'll have a little bit more influence at the university to be able to broadcast the lectures to everybody. But what I might do, again, this is going to be a little bit of a time commitment, but what I might do is for every lecture that I'm going to do each week at Stanford, I might also just live stream the whole lecture on GTT. So then you guys basically get to see exactly what the Stanford grad students, like what my master's and doctoral students are getting insight into, since many of you have asked about that. But going back to this is that if you happen to be in NorCal and you want to attend the lectures, all you have to do is email me. Just email me at goju@stanford.edu. My Stanford email address is active now, so it won't be bounced. I think it was activated this week. And let me know, and then I can add you to the audit list. So, yeah, and I I asked, just so you know, Sleepy, I asked Stanford if they would let me live stream, because they have rooms that are fully capable of doing this, and they told me initially, no, you're not. I'm kind of not important enough. Like, I like to be real, right? Let's just be real. I'm just lucky to be at Stanford and to have them let me run around and play professor. And I need to not push my luck, right? I haven't won the Turing Award, or I'm not some super Nobel laureate. I'm just Goju. And so I'm just trying to not get fired, essentially. So I have to mind my own business and keep my head down. But I did ask them, and they said initially, like, no, Goju, you need to do your rite of passage. So maybe now I've done my rite of passage enough. We'll see. I'll test the water and get back to you guys. So, Armando, I'm going to read some of the stuff that you're talking about here. Oh, Armando, you're getting into the weeds here. This is pretty interesting. He's saying, anyway, I tend to look at the big picture and tend to have a superposition opinion and reason on probabilities. Oh, this is great. I do very similar thing. I love that. And we can think at the IPO as the big picture, and they need to create chaos. Yes, absolutely. Right. Right. So the more mystery and it becomes kind of an enigma. OpenAI becomes this enigma of like, ooh, they're super fancy to do stuff. The more they'll potentially be able to capitalize. Armando's going on to say, actually, let's just bring Armando up like this. So I think is generally what we're seeing with this IPO is to extract as much money possible from the market, thing that's being done yet, to move to the next technology actual AI is consuming. Yeah, I agree with this. Like 100%, I agree with what you're saying. AI is consuming a lot of energy, but future models are not essentially the LLMs, but world models connected to them and architectures of AI. Yeah, and as far as the world models go, I don't really have a formalized take. I will say that Yann LeCun absolutely knows what he's doing. He's a very smart guy. He's not a Sam Altman. He's not a Dario Amati. He's an actual scientist that knows what he's doing. And he's invented a real technology that's changed the world. Like his CNNs, convolutional neural networks, that minimally changed the entire world of banking through optical character recognition for people depositing checks. Like that technology principally was his invention, and it literally transformed the world and allowed people to deposit checks in ATMs that didn't require human tellers. Like that's a pretty substantial win with technology that is, you know, actually useful, I think. But I don't know enough about world models yet. I do think that the diff system is going to be one of the most fundamental game-changing architectures. And once we get into 2027, what I'll do is I will have enough things sorted that I'll publish the diff white paper. So everyone will have it and they'll understand, and then people can start building their own diff if they want. We'll still build our versions of diff in the geosystem, but then if other people want to build their own diff, like, how about it? It's open science. Everybody can build on it and do whatever they want. Now, whether or not world models will be like a core technology that will change things, I mean, I don't know. I do think that they add a lot to, like, one of the things that Yann LeCun talks about constantly is how one of the core challenges with neural networks is they don't understand the world, right? What I refer to as they don't have semantic reasoners. They don't have logical capabilities. So Yann and we're basically saying the same thing. He's just using different. We're just using different words. But so what he's getting at with world models is that they understand how the world works. What I'm getting at with diff, it has semantic reasoners. It's the same concept. So from that perspective, I think what he's onto with world models is exactly right. That is a missing piece that we absolutely have to overcome. I think the difference between like the diff system and world models is that Yann really cares, I think, about the physical world, like images and video and stuff like that. I care more about software and code. And so for his domains and being in the real world and maybe robotics and stuff, I think that it could very well be that this is absolutely the right thing. And then for my stuff over here, which is more in the software development and what we care about on GTT, it could very well be that diff is absolutely the right architecture. So what it could be is that both of these systems end up working in tandem very well, and that it's more just about the appropriateness of the domains that we're targeting. That could be like the core difference of why we're thinking different things. Because like Yann is a little outspoken and stuff, but I don't have any doubts at all of, yeah, 100% Pack. I have zero doubts of Yann in terms of his competency. Like the guy's a genius. He knows stuff forwards and backwards. I would never doubt his capabilities as a scientist and a researcher. 100% he knows what he's doing. I would never bet against him. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And this model would just need instruments to use based on this algorithm of surprise. I know there's people working on this and kernelizing AI. I really think it's very threatening for the $1 trillion value of the... Yeah, right. And I think that that's what's going on with these $1 trillion AI companies is they're not really worth $1 trillion. That's just total and utter nonsense. It's just massive hype propaganda, and it's orders of magnitude inflated from where they really should be. I think that they probably are worth billions of dollars. I think that they do have value and that technology is real-ish, but it's just really a hype wave. And when you can get essentially very similar behaviors from the open weight systems, I think it's going to bring them back down to earth. I do think that language models will play a role in the future, but it'll be much more a role for SLMs rather than LLMs. And then you'll have integration of things like diff or the world models that will ground them. That will be kind of the basis of reality, facts, physics, those types of things that are, like we were talking before about the hypervisor layer that you need for these things to kind of work correctly. That stuff will be captured. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And actually before Meta, he was a professor at NYU. Was it NYU? So he was a professor for a long time before being like chief scientist of AI stuff over at Meta. And I always actually thought that him jumping to Meta was pretty curious. It felt like it was a bit of a money grab. But I can kind of understand if that Meta was doing a lot of stuff with the world of social, and Mark Zuckerberg was starting to focus more on image recognition, scene segmentation, video analysis. That actually aligns very well with what Yann LeCun was doing related to convolutional neural networks, right? So you can kind of see how this does go hand in hand. But yeah. Oh, so somebody was asking, do I ever meet the followers in person? It's interesting with Notica before GTT, there are a few of the Nodekians that I had met in person. And then maybe what we were talking about, James, is doing like a GTT conference at some point once we establish ourselves as like actually building real stuff through like our Discord presence and starting to open source our stuff, is we might start small and have like a small conference in San Jose or something like that, or wherever there's a hub of Jeets. And I think it would be largely just to discuss sort of like the technical directions of where we see the world, make sure that we get to all meet each other and hang out. I will say that I think I'm responsible for a couple marriages on Notica. Like the game I created is like one of my first large software engineering projects. And so doing these kind of social networking things just to bring people together is kind of, I don't know, it's something that I do, I guess. I find that it can be pretty cool. Is just get people all with the same kind of philosophy on life, seeing worlds of opportunity, being very optimistic about future, also being really good at sniffing out kind of like the bad actors and the people that are selling you stuff, and then trying to push forward this narrative of like fostering goodwill, making science and technology better, and helping kind of keep things on track rather than what some of these super rich, corrupt startups are doing, which is pretty unfortunate. Yeah, I'll definitely, yeah, 100%. I'll make sure. Absolutely. We'll keep things posted. And remember, guys, if you're not on the Discord, strongly recommend you on the Discord, because then you stay up to date with everything. Because I never forget to update the Discord. Sometimes I forget to update elsewhere, but let me drop it one more time. And the Discord's totally free. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to install Discord. We may be moving to a different social media thingamabob as our home, but all you have to do is just create an account for Discord, and then you'll see in the announcements section. Let me drop that on IG as well. Then you'll see over on Discord, right, like on the announcements, that I'm letting everybody know, hey guys, we're going to go live tomorrow. And there's over 300 of us now, which is pretty cool. It's kind of growing every day. And I suspect maybe when we hit like 1,000 people, we'll have a big enough core mass of kind of like the hardcore Jeets that we could potentially do like an in-person conference. And we can self-fund it. We'll like rent out some conference space in a hotel or something. And then maybe it'll start being like a half-day event. And people can fly in, and I'll give some keynote address, and then we'll have other people that want to talk about technology and stuff and have them give talks. We'll all sit around and eat lunch together, this kind of thing. And then we'll start building like the momentum of what GTT is really about, which is trying to create fundamental software transformation through open source. More for the common good of people rather than to line our own pockets with an insane amount of money. Because we're not, like, we all need to eat. I understand that, but there is a point to where it's no longer about just making sure that you have enough. It's just pure greed. Like, people don't need to be billionaires, right? That's just, what do you do with all that money? Oh, awesome, Armando. Yeah. Yeah, so Rikio, absolutely. And I think that it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I don't know if, Rico, if you've seen the IG clips that I've dropped on the potential ban of the Chinese models in the US, but I am worried that there's going to be some ban, which of course is going to be practically impossible to enforce at like individual level, but it will create FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt in enterprise companies to use them. Also, I will say that I am very nervous that these guys have embedded backdoors in them that could potentially make your systems be vulnerable to various things. But with that said, I think what the Chinese AI models do is they demonstrate that local SLMs or slightly leveled up LLMs that are locally hosted through like VPS is possible, and that you don't need things like OpenAI or Anthropic. Armando's asking, why don't you do the first Web3 community? You would be unbannable. I'd love to hear what you're talking about here. I don't know much about the Web3 stuff. I mean, like a little bit. I think like some of my professor friends are interested in this, but I'm like truthfully a bit of a noob when it comes to some of the web stuff. I kind of just know about it a little bit peripherally. Okay, I think there's one more thing I want to talk about. So let me do a quick bio break. And then the last thing I want to talk about is this careers versus jobs. Just because a lot of people have pinged me about this, and I kind of want to share what my thoughts are about this. I'm getting DM'd quite a bit asking me some questions, and I just want to share this kind of like on a public stream so I can make a clip of it so that you guys can ruminate on it. I suspect many of us Jeets are already focusing on having careers versus jobs, and you probably already know a little bit about what I'm going to say. But let's take a quick... Oh, that's great. That's great. I'd love to hear more about this, Armando. So let's take a quick break. We'll take maybe 3 minutes, and then we'll talk about this last topic, and then we'll call it a day. So let me bring up the brief pause thingamabob. I think it's right here. Okay. We'll call this a bio, caffeine, and stuff. Okay. You guys go run and do your thing too, and then we'll cover this last topic. Be right back. Alrighty. Actually, there's two things I want to quickly talk about. There's the data camp thing that's coming up. So as many of you guys know, Data Camp is one of our partners. Let me minimize this. I'm going to put this chat over here. Oh, yeah, cyber. I'd love to see. Love to see that. Oh, wow. That sounds intense, James. Hopefully this was a nice little break from your CPA setting. Oh, sweet. Sleepy saying, I find it curious that in benchmarks, they seem to have a huge amount of tokens comparatively to the usual suspects. Could that indicate activity running in the background that we aren't aware of? Definitely. I'd like to hear a little bit more of what you're saying, Sleepy. But I think that a lot of what's going on with some of the benchmarking is suspicious. It's very curious. Like, there's a lot of up to no good kind of stuff that I'm seeing. You know, like knowing the answers a priori, training on the test before you take the test, right? Like that seems a little bogus to me. Paying people money that put together the benchmarks, there's like a whole bunch of shenanigans. Yeah. Oh, James, 100%. Yeah, I'm very much aligned with the whole career path and moving away from the job path. But before we get into that, one quick thing is I was talking with Data Camp just yesterday, and they mentioned to me that they're having a full week of free access from August 24th to August 30th. I don't know all the details yet, but I wanted you guys to be aware of this. So Data Camp, you can just learn a whole bunch of stuff about technology. They have really interactive courses, and they have been sponsors in the past, but I'm just saying this just because I think they have really good stuff. Like, I'm not, just to be clear, I'm not being paid to say this. I'm just telling you that this is like a legit awesome thing, that if you're trying to learn about machine learning, AI, technology, and you can get free access to their stuff, including their certificates, you could speed run a certificate from Data Camp in this week and then basically get it entirely for free. So if you may want to block this off on your calendar from August 24th to 30th, I'll probably have an affiliate link just so Data Camp knows that I'm sending people their way. So then they decide to run more campaigns with us in the future. But just to be clear, based on what my contacts at Data Camp were telling me yesterday, there's no cost. It's entirely free. So you may want to check that out. A great platform to learn stuff on, all that kind of thing. Okay, so now the last topic I want to talk about, and I'll be, I think, kind of quick. This probably requires a lot more detailed treatment than I'm going to give to it right now. But a lot of people have asked me in the DMs, like, how did I get to where I am? How do you get a PhD? How do you end up teaching at universities? How do you run your own research lab, create your own companies, all this stuff? And I wanted to talk a little bit about the way I see it. Now, I think everybody is on their own path. So my path is how I did it, but your path may be totally different, and you should kind of do what I think is good for you. But one of the things that is very obvious to me is there's a real big difference. One of the things that I see for all the people that I know that have been wildly successful in kind of like the things that they've set out to do is the way that they think about these things, the way that they think about their career versus their job. Oh, awesome, Echo. Thanks for sharing that. I'll, can I copy this? Let's see if I copy this. Just drop it over here. That didn't work. Okay, I'll get back on that. Thanks for sharing, Echo. So people will ask me this question about like, well, how did you do it? Can you share words of wisdom, that kind of thing? And like, I don't know that I know anything that anybody else doesn't know, but one of the things that's really helped me is kind of making this mental shift between when I used to have jobs and how now I have a career. When I think you have a job, I think what happens is you often think about work like it's work, that you're going to go to work and now you're working and boy, I wish I would be done doing work so that I could go have fun or something like that. And it's sort of like you're doing it because it pays the bills, but you're not doing it because you actually enjoy what you're doing. You don't really have any fire for it. It's just like, it's just a necessary evil, so to speak. And I think it can be really hard to be wildly successful in life if that's the mentality that you have. Because when you have this mentality, you're always kind of racing to the end. Or at least that's how it was for me. Back when I used to have jobs, I used to just think, when will this be over? Because I want to go play video games or watch movies and eat popcorn and just chill. But then, I don't know, maybe when I was in probably around the time I was doing my PhD, I started to make this shift in the way that I think about work, and that it no longer was like a job that I did. It was more about something that I loved, that I just started to really enjoy what I was doing. And when you make that shift, there's like a few different things that I think happen. The first that happens is I think that you start to lose kind of your sense of time. And when you lose your sense of time, what I think happens is your ability to become deeply focused on what you're working on enhances significantly. You're no longer distracted by, when will I be done? I'm hungry. I want something to drink. I want to talk to my girlfriend. I want to talk to my boyfriend. I want to go play with the dog. I want to do anything other than what I'm doing right now. When you get out of that mentality and you become solely focused on the thing you're doing, I think it starts to unlock this creativity for you to see things and truly engage in a way that becomes more focused on the work at hand than being done with the work. And when you make that shift, I think the byproduct of that is the quality of the work that you produce increases significantly. That you're no longer doing the bare minimum to like have it be acceptable. You're now focusing on building the best quality thing that is possible. And people see that. People see the results are different. They can see that you really care. That you're not doing this just because this pays the bills, but because this matters to you. And then what that does is you start to get access to other people that also deeply care. They become aware of you. And it starts to become this sort of like virtuous cycle where because you're this way, then now you have more access to other people that are wired the same way. And then you kind of iterate on it. Right. And just to be clear, it is an ownership shift. Exactly. And it doesn't mean that you have to own the company. It doesn't mean that you have to own the social media thing. All it means is that you have to own the idea of yourself and own the work that you're doing. You're doing a PhD, own your research. You're writing software at a company, own the software that you're writing. Make it personal, make it matter. And when you make this shift, I find that the quality of your work increases significantly, and it creates this sort of like vibrance about it. People notice. Other people that deeply care will start paying attention. And then it creates this compounding effect as your network starts to increase. Other people start to become curious about you. Other people want to work with you. They want to mentor you, or they want to be mentored by you. Like this whole universe of opportunity starts to shift simply because you made the deliberate intentionality change where you're no longer simply a passenger in the car, you're driving the car. Exactly, Echo, is that you're shifting from being somebody that's just a worker to a missionary. And you can do this without being the owner of a company. You can do this like the entire time I was at Intel, that's how I worked at Intel. And it's what led me to go from just being a lowly research scientist to then becoming a principal AI scientist. And I was the director and founder of my own research lab, is people could see that I just deeply cared, that I put in crazy hours, not because I was trying to impress anybody with me working like insane hours, but because I just didn't worry about the time I was putting in. I worried about trying to do high quality work. And I think that that's one of the things that you kind of have to get through your head in order to make the shift from having a job to having a career, is that when you have a career, you are always working. And that's not a bad thing. Like for me, I have a career. Everything that I do is basically my career. I'm always working. No matter what, if I'm walking the dog, I'm working. If I'm exercising, I'm working. If I'm playing a video game, I'm working. My mind is just always working. I think people that are allergic to work have this view of like, this is my personal life, this is my professional life, and these two need to be separate. I think that philosophy is what will kill you. That philosophy is what will stop you from having a career. Because you want to segment these things and say you want to have work-life balance. This is just kumbaya bullshit. There's no balance. It's all the same, right? Like I was actually discussing this with my mentor at Stanford, because I was accidentally like crossing the lines between what Stanford is and what Merle is, and now there's GTT in the mix, and they're all blurry to me. And I was saying, yeah, sometimes I accidentally bring the Merle stuff or the GTT stuff to Stanford, and I bring the Stanford stuff to Merle or whatever. And I was like, Alex, the thing about me is it's just all in the same pot. I'm just stirring the whole pot together. There's no end of one and beginning of the other. And he was like, that's exactly how I see it too. And that's actually exactly how Stanford sees it. It's just sometimes you need to remember that not every Stanford professor runs their own companies. And so you have kind of like an unfair advantage and this kind of thing. And it's like, okay, right. Yeah, I got to remember that and not like cross the streams, so to speak. But for all the people that I've seen that are wildly successful in whatever their profession is, all of them have this outlook, that this is the outlook that they take. And we could be focusing on completely different domains. It could be Taylor Swift in music. It could be Kevin Hart in humor. It could be Ryan Gosling in acting. It could be Elon Musk in creating a company. It could be Donald Knuth in computer science. It could be Pablo Picasso in creating art. It doesn't matter. It's any domain. What matters is that it's the care, is that you have this really deep-seated care and love of the thing, and that you become very passionate about what you're doing, and time is no longer a concern. It's not how fast you can be done with it. It's more about how good you can make it. And I think someone was asking this question about the love, like which comes first. Yeah, James is saying, do you think it's possible to not love it at first and then you love it once you're, but yes, 100%. I think a lot of people get confused about this, is they're like saying, do what you love and then you'll never work a day. And then people are like, well, I love nothing. Yeah, because when you first start doing things, you suck at it. Anytime we first start in anything, we probably suck. Like the first time I started writing code, I was awful. I hated it. But I could see that there was like something, this could be valuable. This is a skill I want to learn. And getting comfortable with the hardship, like getting comfortable being uncomfortable, is one of the most important skills that you can possess. Because then you can start to see that when you're uncomfortable, it almost always means that you're growing. And growth is one of the fastest keys to success. That's why, you know, our motto is keep going, keep growing. There are two things. One of them is building. So sometimes I'm in building mode, like building clips or building these live streams. Other times I'm in learning mode. I'm in growing mode. And that's where I'm like, okay, I need to stop just mechanically working. I need to actually learn now and force myself to, and we all know what this looks like, right? Every one of us knows what it means to do mechanical, repetitive tasks where we're just going through the motions. We already know how to do it and nothing is being learned. And in order to really achieve greatness, I think you have to grow every day. You have to stop and say, wait, I didn't learn something today. And so I'm going to stop doing just the mechanical repeat of this process. I'm going to spend a small amount of time trying something different. And so, for example, with my video editing, is I constantly, when I'm doing the VODs or I'm programming, I'll write some code and I'll be like, well, what if I try to learn a slightly different way to do this? And maybe I'll spend 10 minutes, maybe I'll spend 30 minutes. But when you do this every day, what happens, it compounds over time. Like the volume of things that you learn when you chip away at this, when you do these small footsteps, it becomes enormous over time, right? It's all about the marathon. Life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so you don't get a PhD in one day. You don't create a company and IPO it in one day. You don't become a Olympian in one day. You don't become like world class as a weightlifter or a talented musician or a famous poet or a Nobel prize winning scientist or Pulitzer prize winning artist. None of this stuff happens overnight. It's all a slow burn. So if you can get used to the idea of chipping away at things slowly over time, but being dedicated to the cause and being willing to put in the work and knowing that there is no off switch. There's no like, I'm not working now. Now I'm in fun mode and don't talk to me about work. Don't bother me with this stuff. Like, I'm just enjoying myself. You can start to unlock your true potential. And it doesn't mean that you have to be like crazy obsessed with it, right? It doesn't mean that you like cut off the whole world, but it does mean that you're going to have to probably make really critical decisions on who you surround yourself by. Because there are people that like all they want to do is just kind of waste away. And like, no judgment. If that's what they want to do with their life, that's fine. But that's not what I want to do with my life. And one of the hardest things I ever did was pruning my inner circle. Like, I absolutely have no time and no patience or tolerance for people that aren't there to make better versions of themselves. Like, anybody that tries to pitch this kumbaya bullshit of like, oh, you just need to accept me for who I am. Fuck that, man. I don't accept myself for who I am. I'm constantly trying to grow. I don't want anybody else to accept me for who I am, right? Like, I am who I am today, and I better be a better version of myself tomorrow. And if I'm not, I want my inner circle to kick me in the ass and say, yo, Goju, when have you grown lately? When have you read a book? What do you know today that you didn't know yesterday, right? That stuff is really healthy. That stuff stops you from stagnating. That's the kind of stuff that keeps you employed. That's the kind of stuff that like keeps you from going on welfare. That's the kind of stuff where you will contribute back to society and become someone that people can depend on, right? That's the kind of stuff that leaders are made out of. So anyway, I feel very, very strongly about this stuff, as you can probably tell. It is very hard to find those circles, Sleepy, and that's part of the reason why I created GTT. Truthfully, that was one of the key drivers of GTT is I was like, I'm wired this way. I know other people in the world are wired this way. I'm going to create this freaking social movement, and I'm going to find those other people, and we're all going to be together, and we're going to cheer each other on. And that's like one of the primary reasons why GTT exists. It's so I could find other like-minded people like all of you. And it is really tough because the majority of the world is not wired this way. They're not, especially in the United States right now. I don't know. It's just like the level of entitlement, and like people want freebies and just so much privilege and stuff. It's actually quite annoying to me. There's beauty in hardship, right? There's so much to be gained through delayed gratification and suffering, right? One of the most profound and important quotes I think I've ever heard is, growth and comfort do not coexist. They don't. They don't coexist. If you are comfortable, you're not growing. So I have this rule, like I couldn't activate it for a while because of my shoulder surgery. But prior to this, I used to have this rule that any day that I wasn't physically sore, I had to exercise. It was like a rule that I created after I did my PhD, because after I finished my PhD, I saw the PhD photos and like I put on all this weight. No excuse for that, right? And so I got down on myself and I was like, you're this fat, lazy punk. You need to get your shit together, Goju. Right? And so I made this promise to myself. It's like, no, you're responsible for this. You have no more excuse of you doing a PhD. Like, your get out of exercise jail free card. You need to like get yourself back in shape. And so I created this rule that was like, if I'm not in a huge amount of pain of soreness, I must exercise. And so the days where I'm super sore, where like it's just every muscle in my body aches, I'm like, okay, you can take a rest day on that. But if you don't have that, you have to exercise. It's a very simple rule. And the idea of it is that you're constantly staying in a state of discomfort, because that discomfort is what's helping you grow. And if you maintain that discomfort over a prolonged period of time, you will grow tremendously. you'll be able to achieve things that the rest of the world will look at you and be like, how did you achieve this stuff? And it's like, well, I just chipped away at it over a prolonged period of time, and I was able to accomplish like some stuff. It's not a sprint, it's a frickin' marathon over a prolonged period of time. And it can be for anything. It can be for exercise. It can be studying for your CPA. It can be trying to become a medical doctor, doing a PhD, being a professor, musician, artist, carpenter, whatever it is. It's just a philosophy of life. It's very much why I follow the teachings of Marcus Aurelius on being a Stoic. Is a big part of Stoicism is 100%, Tom. And yeah, thank you guys for letting me rant on this. In fact, when I teach at Stanford, I have this one lecture where I talk about world-class traits and how I don't know why this isn't taught at the university, because I think it's like so fundamentally important. And a lot of this is just teaching students how to become the best version of yourselves. And all of it really starts with you not comparing yourself to anybody else but yourself. You are the only person that you should measure against, because you don't know other people's story. You don't know their hardships, you don't know their gifts, and you're not them. So stop comparing yourself to them, but you absolutely should compare yourself to you. And if you're a worse version of yourself today than you were yesterday, that's on you. You've got to figure that shit out. And you got to be introspective and be able to be intellectually honest with yourself. You need to stop lying and giving this self-talk where you're giving yourself excuses, right? Being critical on yourself and owning your mistakes, accepting yourself for who you are and being like, look, I'm not perfect. I'm a work in progress. But then also not letting yourself get out of jail free, not allowing yourself to be like, well, what's one donut going to do? And then one donut turns into 6 donuts, and it turns into 12 donuts. And then one day, a cheat day, turns into 2 days, to 3 days, to it's a full month. And then you constantly are just telling yourself, well, just one more day. Like, just don't do that, right? You just got to be honest with yourself. And none of this stuff has to happen immediately. You don't need to draw these strict lines where it's like, I'm gonna stop smoking entirely today. I'm gonna stop drinking entirely today. I'm gonna go from not running to I'm gonna run 10 miles a day. Like, any of these drastic changes, oftentimes it's not the way to go. It's a slow burn. Now, admittedly, I used to drink alcohol, and I don't drink alcohol. And for me, I did stop cold turkey, right? But that's because I really like alcohol. And I knew that if I drank a little bit of alcohol, then it would turn into a lot of alcohol. And so in that particular case, I'm like, no, I need to stop drinking alcohol completely. And so I don't drink alcohol at all. But everybody's different, right? So certain things you can wind into. Like, for example, I'm running again. I used to run marathons, like I think you guys know. I doubt I'll run marathons again, but ever since the shoulder surgery, my exercise has been on the decline, and I've been waiting to slowly ramp back up. So now I'm finally to where I'm running again. I think maybe I'm up to 6 to 8 miles. I run about 6 to 8 miles every other day, something like that. And I'm doing my weightlifting again. But I didn't start at 8 miles. I started at half a mile. I was just like, you just need to start walking again. So I would do like a walk, run. And then slowly every day I'm chipping away at it. And now I'm back up to where I think like, oh, it's pretty good. And then I followed the same philosophy of like, if I'm not super sore, then I have to exercise. And it doesn't have to be like, I don't have the mental mindset of like, okay, you have the thing, Goju, where you always run 8 miles. You have to go run 8 miles tonight. It could be like, no, all you need to do is do something. Just go for a walk. just write a paragraph, do a 30-minute stream, right? Just go do a couple dishes in the kitchen. It can be small stuff, but what you often find, at least what I find, is that once you start doing something and you get into the motion of it, it becomes pretty easy to just keep doing it. So oftentimes if I'm like, oh shit, I'm exhausted, I've been working 16 hours, I just want to go to bed. It's like, no, just go on a 15-minute walk with the dog. Just get out of the house and just go do that. Next thing I know, I'm out with the dog. We've been running for an hour and it's like, I feel fantastic. So the other thing I found that is like critical to this is the most difficult part is starting. Starting is always the hardest part. Once you get into the motion of things, it becomes significantly easier. So yeah, I mean, I literally could rant and rave on this for hours on end, and we've already been going for about 3 hours, so I'm going to wind this down. I have a lot more to say about this, but circling back to, oh yeah, Kat. I mean, guys, if you knew some of the stuff that I used to do as far as playing hard, like, I've got some stories. I wasn't always the kind of chill, relaxed Goju. Used to have a little bit of a fire in me, and I think had to experience some of that stupidity and kind of get it out of my system. But we'll save that for another live stream. Anyway, the point of all of this is going back to the careers versus jobs. Is this absolutely relates to this, at least from my view, because it's a mindset. It's more of a mindset of just being engaged in life and not deciding that there are these silos of things. This is the unfun time for work. This is the video game time for fun. This is the time with family. It can all be the same, right? And that you can just stay mentally present for these things. You don't need to have this mental shift where you turn these things off. And really, I think that these mental shifts are actually what breaks things. When you put things into silos, I think you short circuit yourself quite a bit, because you disable the ability for you to really engross yourself in doing incredible things. But it does require sacrifice, right? I think one of the biggest things that it requires is you make hard decisions. There's not a single person that I know that's had an incredible career. And I know lots of people that have had, I mean, you guys kind of know a little bit about who my inner circle is. Some of these people, like, wildly successful. And I'm not just talking about rich. I mean, like, I know a couple Turing Award winners, right? Personally. So Nobel laureates, right? Like, people that have achieved greatness in various things. And every single one of them, the story is the same, in that they've had to put in the work. They've had to sacrifice. And you don't have to sacrifice everything. You just have to be reasonable about the stuff that you're going to have to cut some things out. Particularly, one of the most important things you need to cut out is you need to be able to cut out the noise. And if we're being honest with ourselves, almost all of us have noise in our life. We have the people that don't really add much to our life. We have the things that we do that we know we probably spend a little bit too much time doing, that maybe we can still do it a little bit, but we're being a little bit overboard with it, right? We've gone a little bit too far. Maybe instead of playing video games for 12 hours on the weekend, you can cut it down to 4 hours, right? And I'm not saying you shouldn't reward yourself, but one of the most important things that I think really drives successful people is the notion of delayed gratification. You have to get comfortable with delayed gratification. You have to be willing to put in the work and wait for it. Not just put in the work and demand immediate returns. Life doesn't work like that. And you have to be able to see that you're making forward progress on these things, even though you're not being rewarded by the world, right? My PhD took 7 years. I failed the prelim exam, and it was sudden death. Like, if I failed that exam the second time, they're going to kick me out of the university. I literally thought that this whole journey, that was after 4 years of doing the PhD. I thought that I was getting just like 4 years of wasted. It took me 5 years before I even got one tier one research publication through the review committee. So oftentimes it can feel like it's hamster wheel, but it's not. I promise you it's not. If you really look at it and you try to identify the intangible things that are going on, right? Like, oftentimes people will be like, I've been doing this live stream influencer thing for so long. When I first started doing GDT, the first like 50 videos that we dropped on TikTok got 0 views. 0 views. For months that happened. It's the same way. Like, when I first got on Facebook, for weeks, nobody even watched the videos. And all I got was just hate. It's the same way with Insta. It's the same way with YouTube. Like, doing anything that matters takes time. And there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to encourage you to just drop out and fail. And mostly that's because they can't do it themselves. And if you achieve it, then it's demonstration that you were able to achieve something they weren't able to achieve. Fucking get those people out of your life. Don't listen to that noise, because that's all it is, right? It's jealousy, it's envy, and it's misery loves company. They don't want you to succeed because it's going to be a reflection of all the things they haven't done. You've got to get those people out of your life, and you have to be able to know how to ignore the noise. It can be really tough, right? Because the signal can be really, really small. But you have to be able to look at yourself and say, like, I know I'm growing. Right? Like, when I was doing those TikTok videos, I knew that, like, I'm getting better. And I'm feeling internal growth. Yeah, like, for example, Colin was there. I remember talking to Colin about this when we were doing the TikTok thing. And we were both looking at each other saying, like, why are we even targeting TikTok? And it's like, well, we don't know. Let's just give it a shot. And the other thing that really helps to make this work is you have to get over your own ego. You have to stop being embarrassed. Become unembarrassable. Never let yourself be embarrassed. There's no such thing as being embarrassed. That's just your ego, right? You need to be able to get in front of a room of people and tell jokes and have no one laugh. That's not you bombing. That's you growing. That's you getting comfortable in uncomfortable spaces. And the more you do that, the more reps you put in, the better you get. On top of that, people will see that effort. The real people, the real ballers out there, they will see what really matters, and that your commitment to something is unwavering. That's what the real movers and shakers care about, is they look at somebody and they're like, you know what? Everybody else looks at this person, they think that they're a failure. I look at this person and I see someone that's unrelenting. I see someone that's a freaking missionary. That's like so committed to a cause that they just don't care what anybody else thinks. That's a person that I want to support. That's a person I want to get behind. That's a person that I want to, like, be surrounded by. The real people in the world, they see this shit. they're magnetized by this. It's all the superficial fake people in the world that are focusing and laughing at the person that has the 0 views, laughing at the person that's like they're a work in progress. The people that really matter, they're secretly applauding all of that. Because the people that are like the true movers and shakers, they don't care about money. They don't care about fame. They care about whether the person is like unwavering in their commitment to something. They're looking at someone and are they truly a missionary? Are they someone that they could like really believe in? They could really trust that they have their own internal compass that's so strong that nothing can pull them from that charter. That's absolutely someone that you want to be around. Because if they can do that on their own, what are they going to look like when they have actually people supporting them? They're going to be freaking unstoppable. And so, yeah, like it's a very complicated amalgamation of all of this stuff. But yeah, like 100% cyber. It's those fake friends who tell you things like, why are you bothering? Why are you doing this? How much money are you making from this? Fuck all that. That's all bullshit. None of that matters. What matters is, does it mean something to you? Is it meaningful? Are you getting better? Are you moving forward in life? And find similar people that have that same mindset, that they are motivated by doing the things that actually matter in life rather than doing things about appearance. How good does this look in front of other people? Am I making an idiot out of myself? How many people liked this video? How many people complimented me on my outfit? That's all bullshit. It's all nonsense. That's all superficial mumbo jumbo that's distracting you from what really matters. And putting yourself out there, the truth is, every time you're out there and you fail gracefully, the people that really matter in the world, they all see it and they're all super impressed by it. That's the thing that they're impressed by the most, because it takes almost no character to behave well when things are going right. It's only a true sign of character when you behave well when everything is going wrong. That's the true measure of a person. So yeah, that's how I feel about this. So I have a lot more to say about this, but I actually have to run because I need to go check on this new house that I'm getting and all this stuff. But yeah, they absolutely don't want those people to shine, right? Because that radiance is going to take away from them. And you got to be able to get away from those people. That was actually one of the hardest things in my life, is to figure out who those people really are. The people that all they want to talk about is money. It's always the same questions. How much money do you make? What's your job title? Where did you go to school? Right? This is part of the reason why, like, I know that I'm about ready to teach, and so I dropped the Stanford name. But oftentimes you'll hear me talk about the university, and I'll just talk about the university because I'm trying to get the point across that, like, what matters is actually teaching the stuff. It doesn't matter where I'm teaching it, right? I mean, in some sense, it was really hard to get a presence at Stanford. I'm just be totally honest. I'm at the bottom of the barrel. This was not easy for me. I didn't start teaching at Stanford. I was like, start teaching at the community college, right? It's been a journey. But it's not a flex, right? That the teaching at the community college and stuff, that was some of the most important things in the world. It's all the steps that you take to get to where you're going. That's the stuff that really matters. And people lose focus of this. The people that are just concerned about appearances, they're just concerned about what kind of car you drive or what kind of clothes you wear or how expensive your watch is, right? Like those people are focusing on absolutely the wrong thing. That's why I was saying, like, with the social media stuff, don't focus on the raw numbers, right? These raw numbers don't mean anything. What matters is the percentages. The percentages that are showing the momentum of things. That's the true signal. And that's how you can see the true growth, that you can look at something like Twitch and say, wow, I have 40 followers on Twitch. I'm a big nobody, right? Well, it's these small footsteps that lead you to things like this, or leads you to things like this, right? But for the people that get really confused about the signal, they focus on the wrong things. All they focus on are the things like this. Oh, you have 3 million followers on YouTube? Oh, you must be a big deal. Fuck that. That means nothing to me. The stuff that actually matters, like I'm over the moon about stuff like this. Like the fact that we have growth on Facebook. We've had 10% growth on Facebook. It's not the numbers, it's this percentage. It's being able to distill out like the actual real signal versus the noise. And I think it can be very hard today with a lot of the superficiality and all of the lies and the propaganda and just the random BS that we're being fed day in and day out. And the good news is that's why we have GTT. Like, honestly, there's been like serious level set here, as I think many of you know. A big reason why I created GTT is I couldn't handle all the lies. It was driving me crazy because I can see right through it, right? Like I eat, drink, sleep, breathe this stuff. This is what I do. And watching OpenAI peddle the bullshit day in and day out where I know it's false, especially given the fact that like I love this stuff. I actually care. Like that's why I teach this freaking class, right? That's why these yahoos decided to let me teach this thing, because they know I freaking love this. I teach this for free, and I'll continue to teach this for free for the rest of my life. That's how much I love it. And so it pisses me off when people come in and all they see is the dollar signs attached to this. They don't see the beauty of the science. They don't see the beauty of how this can level up the whole species. It can make everything better. They only see dollar signs, and then it just becomes so corrupt, and everybody starts getting corrupted, and like need to have a voice of honesty to like level this stuff out and remind people of like what actually matters. What matters is the humanity of it, right? Without that piece, none of this matters. Yeah, and I know it. And I know a lot of you follow GTT for this very reason. And what's great is that I know that many of you on GTT are the same way. We're all cut from the same cloth. We're just looking for each other. And it just so happens that I happen to be the guy with the mic right now. It doesn't even have to be me. It could be any of you, right? And in fact, many of you have the mic. I know that many of you are like absolute ballers. Cyber is incredible. Cat's incredible. Mike, I saw him over here. He's amazing. Colin's early in his life, but he's going to go on to do amazing things. I mean, many of you are founders or professors or scientists, and we all basically are thinking the same thing. We just needed our own room where we could all have each other, so we know that we're not alone in this, and you're not alone. And thank God, because the truth is, now I'm not alone. Because before GTT, I was feeling quite alone. Not lonely, but alone. And now I don't feel that way. I absolutely do not feel that way. Yeah. Kat's saying the biggest question I ask people who want to work with me is, what is your job? And it's really interesting. Because as far as what my job is, I don't have a job. I have a career. I do everything. I'm the janitor. I'm the video editor. I'm the stand-up comic, which I bomb at. I'm the video game player. I'm the beta tester. I'm the coder. I'm the professor sometimes. I'm just like all the stuff. Right? There is not a single job. That's the other part about actually having a career is, yeah, and James, I love it, man, because that's exactly the point, is trying to build this community that I really felt like was missing. Or maybe it's there, but I just hadn't found it. And so it felt like we need to build this thing ourselves. All right, so with that said, folks, now I'm inspired by all of you guys being inspired, and maybe you're inspired. And so let's take this with us. Let's go kick some ass and dominate in all the things we're going to dominate on. And share all your stories on the Discord. And no matter what you do, keep going and keep growing.